Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. Thank you kindly for stopping by. I apologise for yesterday, but I had a day visit to Tanga, which I'll talk to you about in a moment. And excuse the voice, I seem to have caught some kind of sore throat. Macro thoughts. Market volatility has changed immensely, and this was what I was speaking about when I talked about a new arrhythmic normal in the markets. The Chicago Board Options Exchange's volatility index, the VIX, briefly jumped to a level not seen since the depths of the financial crisis. Behind the scenes, however, its esoteric cousin, the VVIX, did one better. The VVIX measures volatility in the VIX reached a multi-year high. For years, the VIX has been Wall Street's go-to measure for expected stock market volatility, derived from the price of options on the S&P 500. The volatility index has evolved into an asset class of its own and now acts as a benchmark for a host of futures, derivatives, exchange-traded products to be enjoyed by both big professional fund managers and mom-and-pop retail investors. The dramatic events of last month underscored the degree to which the explosion in the popularity of volatility trading is now feeding on itself, creating booms and busts in implied volatility. Even as the VIX reached a post-crisis intraday high, the VVIX, which looks at the price of options on the VIX to gauge the implied volatility of the index itself, easily surpassed the levels it reached in 2008. This is the point I've been making about the velocity of the market, speed, Paul Virilio, and this is really quite extraordinary. Home thoughts. I visited Tanga yesterday for the first time with ARM Cement. Their Clinker facility is actually a sight to behold. Tanga is really very pretty. It was colonized by the Germans, so the avenues are still well spaced out, relatively tidy, a lovely sea view. So it was very, very pretty indeed. And we ended the day with a cup of tea overlooking the sea, and there was one lone dhow in the sea as the sun set. Let me put up a photograph of Tanga taken from the air, and also of Tanga Airport, which is even more retro and otherworldly when set aside with Wilson Airport. That took me to a piece MG Vassanji wrote, which was the road to Tanga. Have a look at that if you're interested. Have a look at the interview I did with him last year. This was around his book, The Magic of Cider. And in that book, there's a piece where he goes to Tanga. It's sort of dreamy, dream sequence, nightmarish, but pretty extraordinary. Vassanji says, the past is never dead. It's not even past. The past is a dangerous business, warned Akilimali. It's best to keep it buried. Political reflections. Reuters has an exclusive that Russian troops are joining combat in Syria. There have been various reports on this front. The Guardian saying Russia is complaining of a strange hysteria over its presence in Syria. Foreign Ministry spokesman Maria Zakharova said that Russia has never made a secret of its military technical cooperation with Syria and confirmed that the Russian military specialists are in Syria to help them master the weapons being supplied. Large number of signs of more intensive Russian activity in Syria in recent weeks, including reported sightings of Russian jets and combat vehicles. I concluded by saying Putin has been remarkably resolute in his support of Bashar Assad. The Independent is reporting that a sandstorm is covering Beirut and Damascus with a blanket of yellow dust. Visually quite arresting. Let's go to the currency markets now. Euro 111.89. Dollar index around the 96 level. Dollar yen 120.87, Swissy 0.9761, the pound 153.67. The Aussie had a bit of a bounce, 0.7045, strong employment numbers. Indo rupee 66.585, South Korean 111.9447, The real, and I'm going to come to this in a moment, has been cut to junk 377.93. Egyptian pound 783.12, and the rand 1386.36. And I think that we're going to revisit new lows in that particular currency. Dollar index, let me put up a 3-month chart. Last trading 95.957 when I checked earlier this morning. I think it's been a bit bifurcated, but continues to push on, particularly against the high-yielding type currencies. Euro dollar just below 112 now. Let me put up a 3-month chart. I think Draghi came in and damped that down quite effectively after that very big spike up to 117 that you'll see in this 3-month chart. Commodity markets, gold, last trading when I looked 1107, and you can see it got rejected at that 1150 level I talked about before. I think we're headed lower again. Crude oil, last trading at 44.75 on NYMEX. I think it looks set to go lower again. Holger tweeted Russian ruble weakens versus the dollars. Crude oil continues to fall. The EIA has reduced its 2016 demand estimate, and that's quite important in point of fact. Zero Hedge tweets Brazil cut to junk, which it has been, and that's a big hit from the ratings agencies. Not helpful at all for Brazil, but I've been worrying about this for a while. Have a look at the Brazil Real chart, inverted again from Holger, and you can see that my target of 4 does not look that far away anymore. CCTV News, Chinese Premier Li Keqiang delivers a speech at the opening plenary of the annual meeting of the New Champions 2015. Let me put that through. And he said many things. He says the Chinese economy is shock resistant and resilient. He also said, I said in an article recently, China must fix its economy despite a military show. Have a look at that piece that I wrote, because it's quite, it covers most of the points I think that are important. Holger shows us the China Yuan and the Shanghai Composite in a singular chart, which is interesting. Again, Li Keqiang, plenty of tools to shape macro policy, but it is like a game of chess, he says. And then have a look at the piece I wrote on the 25th of August 2015. China roils the markets, I said, and indeed they are roiled, and roiled big time at the moment. At the moment, none of us can read China, said the CEO of Glencore a little while back. I can, I said, and it is going to get a lot worse, I'm afraid, and I stand by that perspective. I think the further problem is that no one believes the data anymore. The moment when the market stops suspending its disbelief is actually a very dangerous one for policymakers, not least of which I think for Chinese policymakers, and I think they're still grappling with this challenge at the moment. Again, Li, we continue to foster open and transparent financial markets with long-term stability, he said, and I think the markets are watching him very, very closely to see if that really is the case here. Moving on to Africa, I was interesting article in the Wall Street Journal. Those who bet on China face fallout. While forging closer economic ties with China, Angola and others also sought to consolidate their political power and aspire to Beijing's state-led growth model. But those that bet on China's demand for their oil and iron ore are realizing Beijing might not always be buying and might not be able to teach them how to hang on to power indefinitely either. Gabon has been named the top sub-Saharan African country for retail growth, most attractive sub-Saharan African country for international retailers to target due to strong economic growth and a stable middle class. This is A.T. Carney. Evaluated 48 countries in the region, ranked Gabon ahead of Botswana, Angola and Nigeria. Index published by the US consultancy on Tuesday is compiled based on factors including the size of the urban population, business efficiency and risk of investment. Scale will come to sub-Saharan Africa only when a few things happen, particularly the development of a shopping culture, A.T. Carney said. Other countries that make up the top 15 list include South Africa, Ethiopia, Ghana, Zambia. Kenya didn't make the list as the East African country's urbanization rate remains low, while there's still some security risk following a series of attacks by Islamist militants, according to that report, which is interesting. South African all shares minus 0.09% year to date. Dollar rand last time I looked 1387.21. Put up a 6-month chart. I think we're headed back above 14. Egypt is to send 800 ground troops to Yemen's war. This is Egypt's security sources. You will remember that the intervention some years ago by Nasser did not turn out well for the Egyptians. Egyptian pound 783.12, Egyptian EGX 30 minus 21.01% year to date. Nigeria's financial markets suffer after JP Morgan index expulsion. This is Reuters. JP Morgan said late on Tuesday it would remove the bond listings belonging to the West African nation by the end of October, forcing fund managers to sell Nigerian bonds, which might raise the country's borrowing costs. This decision is a blow to President Buhari. Faces criticism for not having appointed a cabinet since his inauguration on May 29. No finance minister in place, foreign investors have been left wondering about government policies and struggling to sell shares or bonds as the central bank adopted tough currency restrictions to halt the slide of the naira. As an investor, it is flabbergasting that the Nigerian authorities have allowed themselves to be put in this situation. Nigerian stocks got hammered at 2.98% yesterday. I like this photograph from The Guardian. Jardin Majorel, Marrakech, Morocco. Pretty extraordinary looking place it is as well. And this one, Basilica of Our Lady of Peace, Yamoussoukro, Ivory Coast. High cost of living, corruption and unemployment remain the leading problems affecting Kenyans, according to a survey. Ipsos survey conducted between July and August also places insecurity and terrorism fears among the major concerns for Kenyans. The Teachers Service Commission has started issuing disciplinary letters to 5,000 heads of public schools over the ongoing strike. This is to do with their desire to have a wage increase, which was given by the court, but the risk of a wage spiral is now very real. The Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich told Reuters in August the teachers' demand was unsustainable. The impact of that award is not helpful in the country and even to the teachers because the economic consequences are far-reaching and will affect everyone. Let me put up a photograph of Pradeep, who's the MD of Athi River Mining, receiving analysts in Tanga yesterday when we got there. A link to the share price data. Share is trading at 49 shillings a share. Price earnings is 16.279. But there's a very interesting story there. Whilst everyone's chasing the cement market, where clinker is the main input, and clinker prices, because of the devaluation of our local currencies, and clinker's quoted in dollars, has gone up dramatically. And basically this clinker facility that ARM have put up in Tanzania is enjoying a sort of a sweet spot because of demand coming out of folks, cement manufacturers, for clinker. Finally, this machine, which I'm going to put up a photograph of, apparently reads 3,000 signals a second. This is at their plant in Tanga. Kenya shilling 105.40, a little bit better. Nairobi all share down 10.66% year to date, but up 5.817% since closing at a 2015 low, August 27. SC20, the NSE 20 is down 17.46% year to date, up 3.407% since closing at a 2015 low, August 27th. Once again, thank you for stopping by.